Hey everyone, happy Monday. Well, it's good to be back with you. Hopefully, you all had a good time over the weekend watching the Super Bowl. If you're a New England fan, I imagine you're pretty happy. And if you're a Falcons fan, you're probably crying in your beer. Not a bad game. Went into overtime, the first Super Bowl game to do that. And of course, the Patriots ended up coming back and winning the game, which they've done so many times. 5 rings for Tom Brady, and I think you can certainly make the argument that he is the best quarterback in history. Okay, so moving on from the NFL, the issue that I want to focus on right now is Iran. They're back in the news. They're one of the top stories as a result of the couple of events that have happened in recent days. Obviously, the missile test, which Iran says was legal under their agreement, which we say is illegal. And that'll have to do with whether or not that missile was a defensive missile or an offensive missile. And that'll, I'm sure, be hedged out in the next few days. Also, the attack on the American ship or the Saudi Arabian ship, and whether or not that was an Iranian vessel that did that, or whether or not it was a Yemeni vessel that did that, and they were doing it under the guidance of the Iranians. That's one of those things you'll probably never get the truth about. But both sides will certainly make their arguments. So we're back into the Iran thing. First, I want to say that I did a video about 2 weeks ago. Some of you may have seen where I stated that Donald Trump's biggest foreign policy challenge in his 4 years is going to be with the situation in North Korea, because I believe that in the next 4 years, within Trump's first term, that we are going to see that situation in North Korea finally play itself out. I think that we're going to see the end of the Kim Jong-un regime. What comes after that, I don't know. That's why I think it's such a big foreign policy challenge. It's gonna be a major international issue. It's gonna affect a lot of countries, specifically the United States and China and South Korea, Russia. All the major players are going to be involved in that, and it's going to get awfully tricky. And we don't even know what's going to happen. I just really believe that that regime in North Korea is within 4 years of collapse. So I still think that's the biggest foreign policy challenge. But Iran is one of those issues that, it has a way of popping up pretty regularly because of the general relationship we have with Iran is just very, very bad. And the Iranians, they're pretty headstrong people, and they don't capitulate. And of course, the United States certainly isn't going to capitulate to Iran. So it's a difficult situation, and it will continue to pop its head up. But I don't believe that it's going to play itself out in such a way that there's going to be any major military action or an invasion or anything like that. I think the issues with Iran are always going to find themselves playing themselves out in a diplomatic play instead of a military play. And I'll get more into that in videos that I'm going to do, because what I'm going to do this week is that because Iran is such a major issue, keeps coming back and back again, I'm actually going to just probably dedicate most of the week to the Iran issue. And because it would take me so long to do it in one video, it would take probably over an hour. So I'm going to break it up into smaller videos. And what I want to do is I just want to kind of go back through the history of Iran and the United States, going back to the post-World War era, so that we can kind of understand how we got to where we are today with Iran. But there is one thing I want to mention before I delve into this topic, and that is something I've always found interesting when you get into a discussion about Iran. When you get into a discussion about Iran and you're talking to Western countries such as the United States or the Europeans or what have you, whenever you're talking to Westerners, they always like to look at the history of Iran and the United States beginning with the 1979 revolution. That's the starting point that Westerners like to use when they discuss the situation with Iran, and for good reason. Now, on the other side, with the Iranians or those who would support their position, they like to start the conversation and talk about the history of our relationship, beginning with the year 1953, which was the year that the CIA overthrew Mohammad Mossadegh, who was a democratically elected leader of Iran. Mr. Mossadegh was he was a secular leader. He was a socialist, a lefty. He was like a typical, European or type socialist, big government socialist. But he was also a nationalist. So he was a socialist, nationalist, secular type leader, and we overthrew his government in 1953. At some point we'll get to that point in the story, and I'll go into the details of exactly how and why that all went down. But I just find it interesting that whenever you try to have a conversation about Iran and its relationship with the West, the history lesson always, they like to begin either in 1953 or 1979, depending on which group of people you're talking to, because the advantage in the conversation shifts dramatically depending on which of those two times in history that you want to begin the discussion. So what I'm going to do, and I think it's the fair thing to do and the correct thing to do to really understand the relationship, is actually to go back to the beginning, even before that, which, as I said, is the post-World War I, right after World War I, the things that took place in Iran leading up to where we are today. So anyway, what I'm going to do this week is I'm going to do some videos on Iran, talk about the history of our relationship with them. I'll break it down. It'll probably be 5, 6, 7 videos. I'll try to do one every day, and we'll start at the beginning and work ourselves to where we are today. And hopefully we'll all have a better understanding of exactly where we are with the Iranian situation and how things might play out as we move forward. So anyhow, that gets us kind of off the starting blocks. So I'll be back tomorrow, and I'll do a video. And I'm trying to get my videos to be shorter, so that's why I'm going to break it up into pieces. So tomorrow we'll get started with the beginning of the relationship with the West, that post-World War I period, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And as we go through the week, we'll find ourselves, hopefully at the end of the week, up to where we are now, and the prognosis for that, where that relationship might end up and what things might transpire. So anyway, y'all have a good day. It's a Monday, so we'll kind of take it easy, and I'll be back with you tomorrow, and for part 2 of America and Iran, the history, and we'll pick it up right at the post-World War I era, and we'll start working our way forward, and hopefully we'll all understand a little bit more about this relationship by the time we get to the end of the week. So thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends on social media, and of course subscribers, that's always important. So I'll check you guys out tomorrow. So y'all have a good evening. Hopefully you're not too hungover from the Super Bowl. Hopefully you're feeling okay, and we'll get back at it tomorrow. Alrighty, see y'all. Bye.